Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I want to talk about 10 more super underrated knives in today's knife world. I did this video a while back, and yes, I also did 10 that were overrated, and maybe that'll come down the road. But for today, I want to talk about 10 knives that I feel like just don't get the recognition that they deserve. Now, these are not necessarily unpopular knives. These are knives that people like, but like thinking about, what's popular right now, what's been blown up. I look at these knives and I think, why wasn't this like way bigger than it was, right? So think of it like that. I'm not pulling these things out of the underground. They're not knives that nobody's ever heard of. They're definitely good knives. They just, in my opinion, they deserve, more recognition. Each one of these knives will have links down below where you guys can go pick them up. So if you've ever been curious about these and you've thought, there's not much hype, maybe I shouldn't pick it up, right? And you trust my word, then I'll be providing links so that you can go do that. Thank you so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, there's, of course, a link down in the description. Your support would mean the world to me. And please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, I don't think there's anything else we need to talk about. So let's start off here with number 10 or number 1. These are in no particular order. This is the Benchmade Barrage in M390. This was, one of my, and in fact, I think this was my first experience handling a knife in M390. I came across this knife at a local store. Now, my first knife that I owned in M390 was the original ZT0562 in M390, but before it was 20CV or 204P, which is the same steel. But I remember first hearing about M390 with this knife. And the Barrage was actually my first high-end knife, but I bought one in 154cm, and then I learned about, back when the Barrage came out originally in 154cm, I learned about M390 because I found that there was an upgraded, heavy quotes, upgraded version of this knife, right? This is still a really, really good knife. It turns a lot of people off because it's assisted. As far as I know, and I could be wrong about this, I've never done it myself. I seem to remember hearing that you can de-assist maybe the Barrage. I don't know that for sure, so I'm so sorry. In any case, even with the assist, I think this is an excellent knife. It is expensive, but you get G10 and aluminum bolsters. You get a beautiful drop point or spear point blade, or however you define that, in M390. Generally speaking, the ones that I've handled have had good fit and finish. This is just a good-looking knife. It's very functional. The Barrage itself is an underrated design, in my opinion, even here in 2020. But this M390 version is really, really good. I've always felt like this was an underrated knife. Moving on here, recently I handled for the very first time the Spyderco Lil Native. I don't like saying Lil. I want to say little. Little Native. This is an excellent. Now, this is essentially a mini Shaman. It doesn't have the contouring on the scales, but it has the compression lock. It's got the same style of blade. It's got the finger. This is one of the smallest knives I've ever handled that I can get a true 4-finger position on. And I love that. If I can hold on to a really small knife, like this and really use it, then great. The compression lock is plenty strong. It has the wire clip on it. This is a USA-made Spyderco. There's a ton of reasons to love this knife, right? If you like the idea of a super ergonomic Spyderco with the compression lock, but you're just not absolutely in love with some of the larger models, maybe because they're so large, this is awesome. I had very little to complain about when it came to the Spyderco Little Native. This is a great knife. It is, it's a little bit pricey. What was that noise that came out of my mouth? It's a little bit pricey, but definitely great. And it is, understandably, it just has a huge shadow cast over it by, its older brothers, its more popular brothers, right? The Lil Native is an amazing knife. Moving on here, I technically put this one in the last. This is the ZT0393. The one that was in the last video was just a standard 0393. All of the variants of this knife have been discontinued except for the GLCF, right? So a lot of you are looking at that and going, okay, so the carbon fiber glows in the dark. Big whoop. You're right. That part doesn't matter. The knife itself is ridiculously underrated. This is, to this day, it's one of the best knives that ZT has ever put out. This is essentially a Hinderer Harpoon Spanto Eclipse, but instead of a full thickness titanium frame lock, It is well, technically it's still a frame lock with overlays. A lot of people are going to look at it and say it's a liner lock. This is a great knife. Anybody who owns this knife will tell you this is a great knife. I've got buddies here locally who own this knife, more than one, and they love it. The $280 price tag, is it worth it? Yeah, in my opinion, it definitely is. This is a wonderful knife, 20 CV. It's got Hinderer's working finish on it that translates to the, or extends to the frame. The carbon fiber, while it's not glowing, just looks like carbon fiber. It looks great, right? You know, in the few times where you have it under direct light and then you shut all the lights off, it's going to glow for a couple of seconds and then it doesn't. You know, whether you like that or you don't, it really doesn't. It's just, it's there. But the knife is still a great knife. This I've always felt this way about this knife. I love this thing. If you've been on the fence about it, don't be on the fence. It's great. Moving on here. Oh my gosh. The Hinderer Jurassic. So, as far as ergonomics go on a Hinderer, there is no knife in the line that is better than the Jurassic. If you're looking at this thing and going, ah, man, it really does look like a T-Rex, but, you know, that's the idea here. But that big hump in the back, and I don't know, the position of the blade, right? If you're thinking about, if you do that thing that I do, where I draw this imaginary line from the tip of the blade back to the butt end of the knife, and you're thinking, you know, how the lines and symmetry, right? This isn't Hinderer's prettiest knife, but oh my goodness, is it the most ergonomic. This thing is ready to be used. It is so, this is one of the most functionally easy to use tools. I mean, and the disengagement is there, the ease of disengagement. The flipper tab is nowhere near as aggressive as other Hinderers. The landing zone, as you can see there, is not covered in jimping. The whole thing is amazing. It does not come with that, well, wait, does it? I don't think it comes with the lanyard loop. I think that they're possibly advertising the HMBS or the Hinderer Modular Backspacer System. Maybe it does. You know, in there they did that weird thing with the MP1 or the Modular Platform 1 and the Jurassic where they were like marketing the HMBS. I can't remember. Whether or not it comes with that lanyard loop, I don't really care. The knife itself is wonderful. It is absolutely worth the $425 that you're going to pay for it. If you've been looking at the XM18 and thinking, everybody, I mean, like, Metal Complex and everybody else is always like, Hinderer, you know, like, if you watch that and you're thinking, but I don't know if I really want to deal with that sharp flipper tab. I don't know if I want to deal with what people say aren't perfect ergonomics, right? The best version of the XM18 3.5 inch are the non-flippers. In this knife, you can have a flipper. It's still got great ergos. You don't have to worry about the positioning of your index finger up on the forward choil because it's not there, but you can still get a full four-finger purchase on this thing. This is a super underrated knife, not just for the Hinderer line, but in general. The Hinderer Jurassic is excellent. Give it a second look. Moving on here, the Microtech die rack. Look, this is a good example of a knife that is popular, but should be more popular. I'm going to tell you guys this. After handling the small die rack, right, I have owned an Ultratech. I've owned a Combat Troodon. I have handled now the Halo 6, the Scarab, the UTX 85, the Guardian Tactical Recon 35. I've handled so many awesome OTFs that are so popular, right? Actually, we're going to talk about the Guardian Tactical here in a sec. But this thing, in my opinion, this is better than all of them. The die rack and die rack Delta are two of the most perfectly designed OTFs in existence. They are slender, they are contoured, they have the firing switch on the face, which in my opinion is a better position than the spine. It's one less movement your hand has to do pulling from your pocket. If you've got this thing switched into the leg, right? If you're thinking about the knife, if you're right-handed like me, you put that thing in the pocket, the switch is up against the leg. When you go to pull the knife from your pocket, your index finger is going to be on the pocket clip, and your thumb is going to be, guess what? Right there on that switch, or at least on the face of the blade. So the point, when you pull that out, your thumb doesn't have to move anywhere except up, and it's deployed. Why does that matter? I don't know. It's just one less, it's one little teeny tiny thing, you know, that people like me who obsess over all those little details, it's just like, oh yeah, that's crispy. That's right where it should be, right? It's not a big deal to have to turn the knife and put your thumb on the spine of the blade, right? It's one extra movement, so what? But I like this better. And on top of that, you get all the Microtech fixings, all the dressings, right? You got the different blades, the different, handle colors and things like that. Oh my gosh. And the standard version of this knife, the die rack comes in at $240, $250, and then the Delta, which is the big boy, about the same length as the Combat Troodon, Those come in at like $350. Or let's say it's $360. The Combat Troodon is using the exact same materials. It's more robust, but it's coming in at $485. Give me the Dirac Delta. I'll take the Dirac Delta. It's symmetrical too. That's a big deal. Visual symmetry is a big deal to me. I love these. They are popular. They should be substantially more popular. I think the Dirac and Dirac Delta are the best OTF designs in existence. Moving on here, the CIVIVI Brigand. So here's the problem with this knife. Everything that CIVIVI makes is incredibly popular. So this was popular and it was a good knife, but for whatever reason, people didn't like it as much as they were like, yeah, this is great. It's not as great as the other stuff. So this is one of my favorite CIVIVI knives. Right behind the Praxis, this guy. That's honestly how I feel. I loved this design. I love that they shadow box the scales. This one felt more solid and smoother on the action for whatever reason. I honestly like this more than the Elementum. And then everything else that CIVIVI makes is below these as far as the ones that I've handled. The Brigand is an excellent design. I mean, I wanted to make sure and include knives everybody could get, but also knives in different price ranges on this list. This is the budget-friendly knife that's on this list, and I think it absolutely is deserving. I love the blade shape. I love the profile. Everything that they did on this knife, I just think it's great. I have no idea why it was not as popular as some of the other CIVIVI models, but it's excellent. Moving on here. Oh, my God. So, most people know about the Riyadh Epoch. It has been around for a long time. It has been steadily interesting in the knife world for a very long time. But it's never been like, oh my gosh, wow, right? I think a lot of people have come across this knife and gone, that's pretty cool, and then been distracted by something else. I was in that boat. This knife has very hindery lines, right? And so many times I've had this in the shopping cart and been like, I should get that. I should get that. And then I buy something else. If you're like me, stop doing that and just buy it. These are $350 now, and they are absolutely worth it. Riyadh, some of the best manufacturing quality in existence. These are 204P. They have a Damascus inlay, full titanium backspacer, good-looking hardware, and absolutely guillotine action. This thing is substantially higher quality than it looks. This is one of those, I finally got to review this knife. As soon as I unboxed it, I was like, oh my God, I should have bought this. It's like the moment I picked it up and flipped it, I was like, I should have bought this 1,000 times over. This is such a wonderful knife. I cannot stress this enough. This is one of the most underrated knives in existence, even considering the design is from a while ago. I love this thing, and it is absolutely worth the money. Pick it up. Moving on here, the Spartan Harz. Oh my gosh. So again, these are popular. I think they're over, so these are expensive too. They come in at just under $500 at base, and they definitely get more expensive. I think a lot of people look at these and they think, if I'm going to spend that much money, you know, and it's just like anything. There's a lot to look at, right? But people look at these, and I don't think, I mean, there's coverage out there. There's people saying good things about them, but not as much. Like if you come to my channel, you're just bombarded with Hinder information. In this price range, I'm like, Hinder, right? And then if it's not Hinder somewhere else, it's Chris Reeve or whatever in that price range, right? Spartan Harz, right there. 100%. Right there. This thing has, again, it appealed to me originally because of the Hinder lines. I just never picked one up because I had my face buried in you know, I was wearing my Hinder headphones and wearing my Hinder face mask, and I was blind and deaf to everything else, you know? This is so worth it. It's a thumb stud opener, so you don't, it's got the Jimp Festival going on, right? There's a jimping everywhere, but it's a thumb stud opener, so you don't have to worry about uncomfortable landing zones. It also has that cryo treatment on S35VN, which I've heard is very beneficial, and S35VN is already a great steel. That's something interesting and unique that they are doing. On top of that, just about every single one of these is going to be different, so you're going to have pride of ownership as far as the design on the handle and the screws and things like that. Number 3, it runs on phosphor bronze. This knife is actually meant to be used, and it is, I mean, I'm not saying that anything that runs on bearing is not meant to be used, right? But this thing is set up to go. It's a good looking knife, but this is a tool. If you want to spend some money invest in something that, you know, it looks good, but you're going to really beat on, I would say the Spartan Harz folder is 100% ready to go. And, you know, lefties can enjoy it too. There's a tab there that can be swapped out for the, you know, the pocket clip on the other side. See, the filler tab thing, that's why I like that. It allows the pocket clip to be set into the frame, making it trustworthy and making it, you know, it's not going to move around or wiggle or come loose or anything like that. But it still looks good when the pocket clip is not installed on that face. So lefties, it is a right-handed frame lock, but lefties, you can still at least mount it correctly. Yes, this is worth it. It is very expensive. It is made in the USA. It is definitely worth it as far as $500 knives go. These are excellent. Moving on here, yeah, the Guardian Tactical Recon 35. Again, another knife that is popular, but I don't think it's as popular as it should be. USA made, in direct competition, in my opinion, with the Microtech Ultratech. I think a lot of people who are considering buying a USA-made knife are probably looking at this Guardian Tactical Recon and thinking, should I go with this? Should I go with the Ultratech? The Ultratech is longer. It's 8.5 inches overall, and it is slimmer. The Microtech Ultratech uses proprietary hardware, the tri-wing screws, and it uses generally 204P and M390. Every now and then they rotate in some LMAX. These guys are using LMAX. The entire knife is a little bit more of a robust build. I'm not saying it's necessarily more durable. It's very similar in profile to the Microtech Scarab or the Lightning OTF. The biggest deal here is the bearings underneath the switch and the switch shape. These are infinitely more comfortable to fire than any Microtech, any OTF in existence, right? Now, is that big of a deal? No. Once you adapt to a Microtech, unless you're sitting there flipping it 1,000 times in a row, yeah, it's going to hurt your finger, right? But you're just getting it out a few times a day to make a cut. It's that little convenience is kind of nice, right? I mean, you know, but I'm sorry, what I was saying is that you're not really going to notice it. You're only going to notice it if you're, you know, firing it all, you know, constantly. But it is that little convenience sometimes that you pick up on that and you're like, oh, that's nice, right? It's very, very smooth. This is the smoothest knife, the easiest to opening OTF in existence, period. They always use LMAX. It's a bit of a tougher steel than 204P or M390. They've got great blade shapes. This is about 7.9 inches overall, so it's right there in that perfect size. You know, obviously, if you can't carry an OTF or an automatic knife or it's over the blade length, then, you know, you're out of luck. But, yeah, this is wonderful. It should be way more popular than it is. These are great, but these are heavy competitors in the OTF world. They're doing something that nobody else is doing, and they're doing it in a very attractive package. On top of that, if you don't like this size, you can get one smaller. That's the GTX 25, and you can get one that's bigger, more Microtech Troodon size, the the Recon 40, I think, something like that. Oh, excellent. Excellent knives. Last but not least, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The Offgrid Scorpion is so underrated. This thing is just off the radar. Like, I mean, it's funny, off-grid, right? This is the most wonderful knife that most people have not heard of. I've said that before. This knife is an off-grid design. They are wonderful. I've communicated with them many times. The very first time that I handled the Scorpion, I took this picture, by the way. Very first time I handled it, I thought, holy crap, this is awesome. The design is so good looking. This is a big knife. That's a 4-inch blade, but it doesn't carry like it doesn't carry like a knife that's that big. The handle shape is just good. The detent is just good. It's the weight of that blade coming out, but it's slender, and it just, every time I put this thing in my pocket, and this is the new one, by the way. This is the all black one. They've got one that's all tumbled. They've got one with a DLC frame and a satin blade, and then they have this all black one. Whatever. They're all wonderful. They come in between $200 and $220. They are manufactured by WE Knives, so that fit and finish, that quality is all going to be there. If you have seen this knife, if you're aware of it, and you were like, I don't know, is it going to be what I want it to be? Yeah, it is. The inlay work is exceptional. Steel is S35VN. It runs on bearings, drop, shut action. I love this knife. This knife has been in my pocket every day since it's arrived. I absolutely love this, and I will continue to say that I think that this knife is severely underrated. There will be links for this one as well. And like I said, there'll be links for every single knife on this entire list down in the description. So if there's anything you've been interested in, you know, feel free, click the links. It helps out the channel. But guys, I think that's going to be pretty much it today. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.